Hey cousins, I would say happy Tuesday, but I really cannot stand April Fool's Day. I have been hoodwinked and bamboozled so many times today because, I'm low-key gullible, and today is essentially me being traumatized numerous times and having my emotions played with. But the only day more insufferable than April Fool's Day may just be Day of Trans Visibility. And at least people stopped the pranks after April 1st. But it seems like this entire decade is dedicated to people chopping off their genitals, and I'm over it. Actress Elliot Page and singer Chappell Roan are two of the biggest advocates, and they will both be getting dragged today for various reasons, respectfully and respectively. Later in the show, I want to talk about the bizarre death of an Atlanta rapper named Young Scooter, whose death many people blame the police for, but new information has since shifted the narrative. Who would have guessed? But to start the show, we must debrief the breaking news that Luigi Mangione potentially is set to receive the death penalty, and I have a lot of mixed feelings about that. Y'all know the vibes. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Welcome to Respectfully. First of all, I like to laugh a little bit. Do you like to laugh a little bit? I like to laugh a little bit. Well, PragerU has a new mini documentary out on PragerU.com for free called Laughter on Lockdown, because comedy is not just about making people laugh, it is about making them think. And after years of COVID lockdowns and cancel culture, comedians who refuse to sit down and shut up are finally pushing back and saying what everyone is thinking. So in this new short documentary on PragerU.com, it is exploring how the tide is turning in entertainment and why no topic should ever be off limits, and how these comedians became the unlikely heroes who helped save our society and free speech. They're not alone. We are standing with them, and I would love for you guys to check out this short documentary. It is starring my friend Jeff Dye. It's starring Roseanne Barr, Rob Schneider, Brian Callen, and so many more funny, hilarious, iconic comedians. Be sure to go check that out on PragerU.com. Now, we need to talk about Luigi Mangione, because I'm tired of saying this man's name wrong and you guys always clocking me on it. So I'm just calling him what his name should be, Luigi Mangione. This man might be getting the death penalty. Oh yes. You guys know Luigi Mangione. You guys remember Luigi Mangione. The breaking announcement is that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has announced that federal prosecutors will seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. They are, this is the guy that is being accused of allegedly murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson back in December outside of the Hilton Hotel in Manhattan, New York. And at this point, the evidence is pretty obvious. I mean, all over his social media, he left trails for people to see. He really sent people on this whole Easter egg hunt, finding all the clues of him allegedly murdering the CEO. And now Pam Bondi, she's standing on business and is wanting to put him on the death trial, or on the death penalty trial. And if you guys don't remember, here's a clip of just what happened, what transpired. Like, Luigi literally pulled up on this CEO, Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, and he just shot him point blank range with some written messages on the bullets. And then he had the murder weapon and all these different clues in his backpack with him when they arrested him, I want to say at a McDonald's. It was just an insane situation. Now, to give some more context of this push for capital punishment is the first push for capital punishment under Trump's second term, and it's really a part of this Make America Safe Again initiative that is really focused on combating violent crime. And Pam Bondi, her whole MO behind it is saying that Luigi Mangione, he clearly was executing a premeditated murder. It was a cold-blooded assassination. I mean, you can't really deny that based on the details that we have seen so far. And right now, he's currently facing the charges of federal counts of murder with a firearm, stalking, many firearm offenses, plus 11 state charges, including murder and act of terrorism. And again, the evidence, he had the notebook with his whole what's it called? I'm blanking right now.
It's like a manifesto?
Manifesto. He had like his little mini manifesto in there. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. He had all of that in his backpack. So he was ready. He was ready, willing, and able to be caught, it seems like. And surprisingly, there is a push. I mean, unsurprisingly, I should say. But his lawyer, his defense is now pushing back, saying that this is barbaric and that it's very political, which I can understand arguing against the death penalty, but calling it barbaric and political, I feel like is a stretch. I feel like what he did was quite barbaric and political. I mean, the entire reason he went after this guy was political, but I don't see who would politically gain from him getting the death penalty. It's more just a matter of letting our country know that this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated anymore. And now it's this whole debate too between the state and federal charges of it all, because the state of New York does not allow the death penalty, to my understanding, but the federal law does allow it. So there is a big push there, but this whole thing is still one of the craziest things to come out of recent memory. Like the whole mystery behind it and people being on this witch hunt because all of his fans were thirsty. I do have to say, though, this is so out of pocket, but United Healthcare, if he does end up getting the death penalty, United Healthcare could do the funniest thing and be like, you know what? We're going to get our lick back. We're going to give you all the tools to, shut him down, shut down Luigi Mangione for free and not even charge for all those materials if they really wanted to get their lick back, if they decide to be petty, because never miss an opportunity to be petty, okay? Sometimes you got to twist the knife right back a little bit. But, something that I still cannot get over with this whole Luigi Mangione situation is how thirsty this man's fans have been. Oh my goodness. This man's fans are like, the simping is insane. Okay, simping over a man who just murdered somebody in cold blood is still one of the wildest phenomena that has come out of this turn of the century that I truly don't get. But really, I can't even sit here and pretend like it's brand new, because this has been going on for a while now. Like if we think about Netflix, for example, I really blame Netflix for a lot of this culture of just these girls simping over Luigi Mangione, Luigi Mansion. Because, I mean, look over at Netflix. They had the whole documentary about Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay. They managed to sexualize Jeffrey Dahmer, the man who in the 90s lured all these gay men to his apartment, murdered them, violated their deceased bodies, and then ate them. A literal cannibal, like for real this time, a cannibal. And there are still people who were thirsting all over this man because of how he was romanticized and glamorized and sexualized by Netflix. They went and got Evan Peters, who is a heartthrob, to play him. Then you have the Menendez brothers. You have all these people who are thirst trapping by trying to be like the Menendez brothers and who want to be these hot, preppy brothers in Bel Air or wherever they lived in LA. Like, it's insane to me that once again, and if you actually watch this series, it's really disturbing how sexualized the Menendez brothers were. In that show, like they even insinuated that these two had an incestuous relationship, which I don't know if that's true or not, but that was bizarre, but also had this whole fan fiction stuff going. Then you have Ted Bundy, who also was played by Zac Efron. Getting Zac Efron to play a real life serial killer was insane. Like, okay, if you look back at the old school files talking about Ted Bundy, like, yes, there were a lot of people even back then who were thirsting over this literal murderer and saying that his charm is what almost got him away clean with it all, which looking at him, he looks very disturbing and frightening, and literally like everything he did, he was guilty of. Everything that Ted Bundy was accused of, I would have known he was guilty just looking at him in that photo. But to have Zac Efron play him, what are y'all doing? Why are y'all making people thirst over these murderers? And the culture is just getting worse and worse. And you already know Dave Franco or James Franco is going to end up playing Luigi Mansion. You already know that this is going to be a Netflix special. As soon as the storyline gets done playing out, you already know this is going to be a hypersexualized display over on Netflix. And it's really, really gross. And you also got this guy, Wade Wilson. I just saw on like Snapchat stories recently that there are all these people thirsting over him. Mind you, now he's not super famous yet because they haven't made his Netflix special yet, but this guy with his tattoos all over his face, acting like this big tough guy in the courtroom, he literally strangled and murdered these women for no reason, like just to assert his power. And if you look him up on the internet, you will see all these different women thirsting over him. It is getting out of control. Why are y'all so obsessed with murderers? Is it daddy issues? Is your dad just not in the picture? Where is your daddy when you need him? Okay? Because I promise you, these murderers aren't going to be your daddy. This is getting out of control. And then Luigi Mangione, he knew what he was doing because allegedly, now there's not concrete proof of this yet, but I remember this went viral on Twitter about a month ago. I just didn't talk about it because I didn't see anything concrete about just like the allegation, but they say that Luigi Mansion went and recorded a bunch of sex tapes before he committed the crime because he wanted to be watched. That was what it was all over some of the blogs, saying that he wants to be watched and that he probably has some type of timed system or some people who are holding onto the files. But he went and had a whole bunch of sex tapes allegedly filmed because he knew that people were going to sexualize him, which is why he's always thirst trapping the camera when you see him in the courtroom, or you see them taking him around. Like, he's smizing. He's always got his eyebrows and stuff. Like, how is he getting his eyebrows and his fade freshened up while in prison? Do they have barbers in prison? Or are they using like forks for that? Do they even have forks in prison? I don't know how this is all working, but you see him glowing and radiant like he just left the spa every time he goes to the courtroom. You can't tell me that man's aura is just that high, that he's just glowing in the courtroom. Like, they're taking very good care of him in prison. And, you know, a lot of people are defending him. A lot of people really stand behind him and say that he did what he had to do. Because his whole manifesto was about how he was trying to say the healthcare industry has killed all these people by denying claims and how the healthcare industry is corrupt. In his defense, I agree. The healthcare industry is extremely corrupt. I'm very, very vocal about that on a regular basis. And that being said, what we're not going to do is sit here and say, let's normalize murdering CEOs because you think that that's the way to make a statement. Like, yes, you got a lot of people talking about it. I'll give you that. I'll be objective and say that. But if anything, you just made it less credible when people try to agree with your argument, because you now look insane. You just threw your entire life away. Luigi Mangione was only 26 years old. You are insane. You are now about to potentially be on death row, and you think that you're going to be revered as this martyr? No. You are going to be forgotten in a certain amount of time. It is out of control. This is very, very pitiful. But still, this man has managed to raise over $500,000 and probably more since then. More, I know in February, they were saying that they had already raised $500,000 for his defense just from people sending in money. Like, people really are down bad for this guy and are head over heels in love with him. And this, to me, is absolutely insane. Okay, we know nothing about the CEO besides his job title and that he was a father of young children right before the holidays. That's all we knew about Brian Thompson. You know, I don't know if this is a good guy or not. I don't know if he's a nice guy. I don't know if he was a good CEO or not. But a lot of the time, CEOs of these major corporations, they don't know what's going on every single level. His whole job is to advance the company. Okay, there are all sorts of people in the chain of command over at a company as humongous as United Healthcare. And that being said, regardless, even if he was the one personally saying no to every single one of these claims that got denied, because they did deny a lot of these requests for coverage, it's like that these claims, that is still not justification to go out and brutally murder this guy. But when it comes to the argument of the death penalty, I'll be honest with you guys. The death penalty is one of those things where I feel like I change my mind on it often because something about it doesn't sit well with me, simply because I don't trust our judicial system enough to get it right every time. And I feel like if you are going to put someone on the death penalty, yeah, you're supposed to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But how many times have we seen that be turned over? How many times has there been a reasonable doubt and turns out the doubt was, or the whole case actually had a lot of reasonable doubt? Okay, it's supposed to be beyond a reasonable doubt, you know? So I just don't trust our judicial system with that level of power to put people on death penalty, especially when we live in a time of political persecution where if you do the wrong things or don't say the right things, they are much more likely to utilize the court of public opinion to deem you guilty, or the court of elite opinion to deem you guilty. So I feel very unnerved by the death penalty. But at the same time, I get it because the death penalty is supposed to be preserved for, you know, serial killers and sexual predators and people who put gum underneath public surfaces. These are people who cannot be rehabilitated. If you are somebody who can be rehabilitated, you should not be subject to the death penalty. And when I look at someone like Luigi, it's like you went so out of your way and did such a calculated effort to murder this man, this CEO, Brian Thompson, that it could be argued that you are beyond any sort of rehabilitation. You know, an eye for an eye, capital punishment. It is biblical, as Mr. Rodriguez let me know before we came down here today. So it's like, I get it. I understand the argument for the death penalty, but I also feel like this 26-year-old, even if I'm pro putting people in prison for life too, don't get me wrong. But even if you were in prison for 30 years, at the age of 56, there's a chance that this guy could be an entirely different individual than who he is at 26. So it's not that I have empathy for him. I just am always nervous of the precedent that we're setting when we take those kind of liberties. So again, I as far as today, because we might talk about the death penalty again in like 3 episodes, and I might totally change my mind. I reserve the right to amend this statement, but as far as I am currently concerned, I just feel like the death penalty should be preserved to, again, the extremes, the serial killers, the sexual predators, and again, the people who put gum underneath desks or underneath benches, because that to me is so disgusting, and that to me is the most disrespectful, vile, inconsiderate, inhumane thing that you can do. How dare you? How dare you? Because I'm always the person who ends up touching the gum underneath the desk, or especially at a nice restaurant. Like, why is there gum underneath the table? It's like, please don't piss me off today. But with all that being said, I am very pro, hanging a witch. I'm very pro hanging a witch. And I'm also very pro public stoning. I think that we should bring that back. I think it builds a lot of community and character when there's public stoning. If you're someone that is a sexual predator, yeah, I would pick up a brick and throw it at you. And I think everybody else in the community would want to join in, and they should join in. That's how you build a strong nation. So what do you guys think? I hope you're letting me know in the live chats. Send in your super chats. We now have super chats on the show. So, let me know what you guys think. Should Luigi Mangione get the death penalty, or do you think that is too harsh? With the assumption that the allegations against him are true, because let me not get sued, child. Moving on along. Let's talk about this wench, Elliot Page. I sip my tea, child. Do you guys know Elliot Page? Formerly known as Ellen Page. Because, we can't dead name people. You'll end up getting demonetized. So Elliot Page is this 38-year-old Canadian trans man, former child star. Broke out back in 2007 with Elliot's role in Juno. And before y'all argue with me, I feel like I always have to put this disclaimer out there because y'all drag me if I play by the rules and I use the proper pronouns. I do not want to be banned on YouTube. If I am banned from YouTube, then I cannot talk about anything else. Just know, y'all know how I feel. Y'all know how I feel about Elliot Page. So, no shade. So, Elliot Page, the actor, had a breakout role back in 2007 in Juno. Again, a former child star. Was also in X-Men, The Last Stand, was in Inception, and The Umbrella Academy from 2019 to 2024. So a very long resume. Back when Elliot was Ellen, had a very lucrative career, but then came out, I should say, because I'm pretty sure Elliot's career is still doing decent, but Elliot came out as transgender back in December of 2020, and now is using he, they pronouns because Elliot feels like Elliot is multiple people at once and decides to make us all be grammatically incorrect whenever Elliot pleases. So that being said, pre and post transition, Elliot has still managed to maintain a career. Now, the reason we are talking about Elliot is because, we just got done suffering through Trans Day of Visibility. And again, it's not even that I have a problem seeing trans people. I'm not saying that I need every trans person to disappear from the face of the earth. It's just draining to me. It's like, what do you mean Day of Visibility? We see you every day. We see you every single day of this decade. Okay, I feel like every single day is Trans Day of Visibility. But the reason that we're talking about Elliot is because I was scrolling through Twitter, minding my business, and this insufferable video ended up popping up on my feed. And honestly, more than anything, it made me genuinely sad. So unfortunately, y'all gotta see it too.
Goodness, what has brought me the most joy? The most joy. It's getting out of the shower and the towels around your waist and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're just like, there I am. I'm not having all these little moments that used to be just being in a t-shirt. It's being able to
I'm uncomfortable watching this.
touch my chest and
You're gonna do that before.
feel comfortable in my body for probably the first time. Tears of joy.
Tears of joy. That is trans joy, everyone. Give it up for trans joy. That was trans joy right now. You know, y'all know me. Respectfully, I have to read this video for filth, first of all, because that is not male behavior. Okay, that is not male mentality. And that for sure is not male anatomy. And that haircut, that is just your typical lesbian haircut. Okay. And when I look at that clip and I look at what Elliot Page, or how Elliot Page is, you know, carrying themselves, that is simply another traumatized lesbian who has chopped off their breasts in an act of defiance against the male gaze and, you know, succumbing to their self-disdain. And it's very sad to me. It's very sad because this is someone who just hates themselves. And it's so funny, as a Black conservative, I'm constantly getting told like, oh, you hate yourself. Baby, I love myself. I love this chair. I love my cousins. I love my audience. I love what it is I get to do. And, you know, I'm not one of those people who likes to sit there and tell people how they feel about themselves, because I know how often people try to do that to me. But me trying to have empathy and, you know, genuinely having empathy for Elliot, it's screaming self-disdain. It is screaming trauma. And, you know, I looked more into Elliot's background, and turns out Elliot is very vocal about the sexual abuse that he endured as a teen star. You know, even in his 2013 memoir, Page Boy, Elliot talks about the multiple incidents in his teenage years in Hollywood where he was, you know, being violated and being groomed by directors and by different people in the crew, and even specified some of the films that this happened and some of the productions that this happened during. And it's very sad. He describes these details these incidences with a lot of details, and how they are traumatic, and how noting that they involved both men and women and occurred when he was vulnerable and isolated as a young actor. So like I said, this is not someone with gender dysphoria. This is someone who is desperately crying for help and whose entire identity is desperately crying for help. And this is sad. We should all be able to come together and agree that what we just saw in that clip is sad. Okay, because gender dysphoria is a very real mental illness. And this is like another example of why it's so sad when these movements get hijacked by woke culture, because something that should be a serious conversation about mental illness and mental health ends up turning into just woke gay propaganda at this point. And, you know, it's actually very disheartening because people with real gender dysphoria, they don't go on a press tour talking about their gender dysphoria. Okay. If you meet someone that genuinely deals with the psychological condition of gender dysphoria, they would rather, like a trans woman, for example, would literally, a lot of them would die before they ever talked about their bulge or their 5 o'clock shadow. If we're just being blunt about it, okay? If we're just being very direct in this conversation, this is a safe space for conversation, isn't it? Is it not? Because that's just not how this works. Okay. Anyone that is a real trans man, they're not wanting to constantly talk about their experience of chopping off their breasts. They want to blend into society. Okay. So that's why this whole thing of Trans Day of Visibility doesn't even make sense to me, because I feel like the LGBT community as well as the T community was getting along just fine when it was just something they did in the privacy. I mean, I don't even want to say it like that. When it was just something that they did living their lives, when they were out living their lives and not making it a personality trait and not making it something that is shoved into the media and shoved into our faces all the time. Because even the amount of times that this is a conversation is insane when you think of how minute of a percentage this community is. Okay. Why is there so much hyperfixation on their visibility if it's such a small percentage of the country? And I feel like people would not care as much if this wasn't something shoved down our throats. I remember the first two people that I learned about were transgender were Chaz Bono, which is Cher and Sonny's son, and Laverne Cox, which is this black trans woman. And those two, from what I remember, they were just living their lives. They were really just trying to get their bag, live their careers, and do their thing. And nobody really was transphobic. Like, I don't really remember anybody taking great issue with those two living their lives, because it wasn't like a Dylan Mulvaney situation where we were forced to accept it, where we were forced to sit there and be like, okay, this is normal and this is reality. It's like, we just want to be able to move on. All right. Is that too much to ask? As someone who, I have some classically liberal and libertarian ideas, and, you know, when it comes to that, I want you to go live your life as a consenting adult. You know, I think spiritually, I think there's a whole nother battle there, but when it comes to legality, you know, you're going to do what you want to do. But can you please be so for real in this conversation and just admit that you are not a man on the inside. You are a traumatized lesbian that is overcompensating so much so that you went and chopped off your breasts. And now you're sitting here crying in an interview as a grown man about how happy it makes you to be able to stand in the mirror with a towel and touch your chest. Could you not do that before? You're telling me you couldn't touch your chest before? Okay. Just say that you were tired of being violated, so you chopped off your breast so men wouldn't look at you as much. Just say that. If that's the case, then just say that. Have a real open conversation about mental health and abuse. Okay, there's a real healthy, productive conversation that can be had there, but it's not happening because we're instead focusing on trans day of visibility. Okay, I wish that we could get more serious about, you know, psychiatric exams and psychiatric care for people who are really dealing with gender dysphoria, or in Elliot Page, PTSD. This to me looks like PTSD more than anything. As someone diagnosed with PTSD twice, oh yes, but I've dealt with my trauma. You need to deal with yours. Okay? No shade. Because otherwise we just keep ending up with more and more of these over emotional people who are wildly self-unaware. And it's sad to me. It reminds me of this other trans man. If you guys remember this viral clip that was from Jubilee, where this trans man sat down with Ben Shapiro. Shout out to Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro has dealt with a lot of insufferable people. He has so much more patience than me because I am such a crash out. I could never do the Jubilee Surrounded episodes, and they asked me to do it before. And I was just like, trust me, if I was in the middle, I would be throwing hands within like 2 minutes. Because if y'all are surrounding me, I'm putting my back against that wall and I'm windmilling you wenches all day. But let's play this clip.
Wow, okay, we're gonna take this chair. Look at that.
Hey, man.
Like a bro, my friend. All right.
Like a bro.
How's it going?
Let's break open
So, first
beer or
question,
something.
can men get pregnant?
Men cannot get pregnant,
Okay, awesome.
It's always worth
So,
definitionally.
definitionally, okay. Do men experience SA? Sexual assault?
Sure.
Got it. What about the existence of trans men?
What about the existence? Do you mean women who believe that they are men? What are we talking about
She's
here?
sweet.
Women experiencing gender dysphoria?
So, my other question
She's,
is,
of
do you
course, studied
benefit
gender
from white
studies, though.
supremacy in any way, shape, or form?
And of course, the
I'm gonna need more
intersectionality, white
specifics on what you
supremacy,
mean by
and
white
Well, here, let me give it to you
pregnant
then.
men.
Sure,
like,
please.
So, I'm a transgender man.
Okay.
I've experienced SA.
Okay.
And abortion rights affect me directly. So, if we're talking about the American dream that you live,
So-
why don't I have access to that? Because there's no legislation, in the history of America, that legislates a man's body, so why does mine have to be legislated? I've got a vagina.
I'm not interested
projectile
in
vomited
what
all over
your
that
genitalia are.
Clearly you are. I mean, it's all over everything you make,
no,
buddy. I'm sorry. I hate to say it to you, but
I think you can read on my face that I radically am not.
Have.
I think you can read on my face that I radically am not. When we're talking about
No,
abortion,
I don't. I mean, you can present it here, but in most of the content that you have, you attack my community constantly. And you don't even realize guys like me exist, who actually share a lot of similarities to you and everything, because I'm a married man of 20 years.
I
got a wife.
recognize that you exist. I disagree with your
Right,
claim
so
that you
if
are a
I
male.
was-
Okay, I'll say that's enough for me. I can't. I literally can't. This is an example of cosplaying what you think a male acts like. And it's so funny because when it comes to this whole transgenderism conversation, you see them go from one side to the other and they literally cosplay the stereotypes of male or female. But then they'll also tell you in the next breath that those two binaries don't exist. Pick a struggle. Like, I really cannot. I can't. I will take April Fool's Day every single day than Trans Visibility Day. I just can't do it. I can't. Y'all make me want to projectile vomit. You know who else makes me want to projectile vomit? the goofy of the day, Chappell Roan. This wench. Chappell Roan is one of those people I'm really just thoroughly surprised that they're famous. You know, this 27-year-old girl, and I had to look up her age. I assumed she was like 20. Learning that she is 27, the big age of 27, and acts the way she acts is actually one of the wildest things I've ever wildest pieces of information I've stumbled upon. Okay, she always is dressing like a drag queen. I almost just thought to myself, I was like, what are Chappell's pronouns? Because Chappell's whole aesthetic is cosplaying trans female culture. So it's like her aesthetic is copying men who pretend to be women. Like it's just wild to me, the roundabout of it all. But you know, this is a girl from rural Missouri, and as someone from the Midwest, I know way too many people that have this same insufferable childish energy as Chappell Roan, who are just so self-righteous. And I've tried to defend this girl in the past. I have, because I think she's talented. I think she's naive, but I think she has potential to be a big star. But every time she gets on a mic, I feel like she gets more and more exhausting. Here is her latest narrative that she's pushing.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell. I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
Y'all don't judge me because y'all know I'm always messing with this earpiece. I cannot stand an earpiece show. But Chappell Roan, you know, when I saw this clip, I assumed, again, that Chappell Roan was like 19, 20. I can understand if you were 19 or 20 and said that all of your friends that have kids are miserable, but you were at the big age of 27. Okay, mind you, I am 28. I'm a year older than Chappell Roan. And this was just such a wild clip to see but at the same time, I shouldn't be surprised because I am not surprised that Chappell Roan is in an association of people that are miserable about being parents. I really do believe her. I believe that all of her friends that have kids are miserable. And why I believe that is because her friends that have kids are probably baby mamas and baby daddies. If we're going to be so for real. Something tells me that Chappell Roan does not have a circle of friends that are married and happy and have stable household. Okay, so she's going and telling her young fans this dangerous information that you just shouldn't go and have a family, which is just crazy to think about because she now wants her audience to be like her, which is just this constant lifestyle of chasing happiness. Life is not about chasing constant fixes of happiness. Okay, you are never going to find meaningful fulfillment unless you are doing what makes the most sense, which is getting married and having children. And I will say there are some people who they're not cut out to be parents. Some people aren't even cut out to be spouses. But that being said, I don't think those people are ever going to find meaningful fulfillment. You might be happy. You might be happy with all the extra money, but as your life progresses, I really do feel like you are going to feel more and more unfulfilled unless you are pursuing marriage and children. Okay. And again, I'm not saying that everybody needs to feel obligated to get married and have kids, but at the same time, this narrative that you're going to be happier without it, I feel like that is more rare that is more the exception than it is the rule, if you get what I'm saying. You know, because unless you have a purpose that is larger than yourself, I think you are going to run out of joy. Statistically speaking, you are going to run out of joy. You can look at so many studies that show if you are married and have children, especially women biologically, baby fever is going to be upon you at some point if it's not already. You might be in denial of it, but your body is telling you that it's time to reproduce more often than not. Okay. So unless you have something, again, that is a purpose larger than yourself, you're not going to sustain happiness. This is why cat ladies exist. If we're going to talk about it and be so for real, the reason that you have these middle-aged cat ladies is because they want essentially a job of taking care of something that is not themselves. They want to be able to spend their life giving themselves a purpose. And these cat ladies, their purpose is taking care of these cats. A lot of these cat ladies, they refer to their cats as their kids. Them ain't your kids, girl. You did not give birth to a cat. Okay? But again, that is them trying to fill a void. And I feel like a lot of the problems that we have in our society today ultimately stem from people trying to fill voids with things that are not sustainable. You know, we talk a lot about in the conservative movement how woke is a religion, but I don't think people understand how literal that is. People are trying to replace God with woke social justice causes. They're trying to replace children with cats. They're trying to replace a spouse with money and vacations. You can travel the world all you want, but are you not going to get lonely doing that by yourself? So I just think it's really dangerous that people like Chappell are using their platforms to tell people to go in a direction that is more often than not going to make them wildly unhappy and miserable as their life goes on. But it doesn't surprise me because she's 27 and she's already miserable. You know, she is becoming the most insufferable pop star, and I should have saw the signs a long time ago. So I just want to give you guys even just a little history on how she has become progressively insufferable. Because the first big thing she started going viral for was her arguments with her fans. Okay, let's play this first clip.
If you saw a random woman on the street, would you yell at her from the car window? You go up to a random lady and say, "Can I get a photo with you?" And she's like, "No, what the f-?" And then you get mad at this random lady? Would you stalk her family? Would you follow her around? This is a lady you don't know, and she doesn't know you at all. I don't care that abuse and harassment, stalking, whatever, is a normal thing to do to people who are famous or a little famous, whatever. I don't care that it's normal. It doesn't mean I want it. It doesn't mean that I like it. I don't want whatever the f you think you're supposed to be entitled to whenever you see a celebrity. I don't give a f if you think it's selfish of me to say no for a photo or for your time or for a hug.
Okay, that's enough with that. So I will say when this was the first video, one of the first videos I ever saw of her. At first, I respected it because a lot of people do not respect boundaries, and I did respect seeing a celebrity establish boundaries because I feel like it's been a long time since we've had the era of divas. Like today's youth could never handle an Aretha Franklin or a Gladys Knight or a Patti LaBelle, let alone a Mariah Carey or a Whitney Houston. They can't even handle Chappell Roan. Okay, so I respected that she stood on her boundaries, but at the same time, I thought it was a little weird. It's like, why would you pursue a career path of fame if you're that averse to people coming up to you and approaching you for pictures and, you know, being fans of you? Like, that is something that you obviously knew was going to come with fame. You literally could not have a sustainable career as a pop star without your fans. So that was the first red flag, but I still gave her the benefit of the doubt. Because, again, I respected that she was putting down the boundaries. Then she had her first paparazzi crash out, at least that I saw, and that the public really saw go viral. So this is her at the VMA Awards.
Shut the f*** up, Jim. This is the spot.
So if you didn't hear, the paparazzi yelled at her, telling her to shut the F up. And Chappell clocked it. She says, what you're not going to do is tell me that. And again, I respected this one. I respected it. It's been a long time since I've seen a celebrity clap back at, especially a young female new artist celebrity clap back at a paparazzi like that. Because some of those paparazzi people are very disrespectful. Like, I've been to a handful of red carpets and they are wildly aggressive to these celebrities. And he was like, she missed her spot. She missed her spot. It's like, she is not entitled to have to stand on that spot for you. Okay. So I was okay with it. But then a month later, she went and confronted another paparazzi that she apparently had some old beef with from a year prior. You were so rude to me. Demanding an apology is crazy. Demanding an apology for something a year old. The fact that she even remembered what this paparazzi looked like is crazy. Now, again, I don't know what that paparazzi did to wrong her, but why do I feel like she sneezed and the paparazzi didn't say bless you? I feel like it was just something so unserious because she is just such an unserious individual. So then it's like, okay, this was some months back. She's getting more and more insufferable. And then Now she's at the Grammys this year talking about trans visibility. And again, just her whole inspiration of why she looks like a drag queen and a clown simultaneously.
It's brutal right now, but trans people have always existed and they will forever exist, and they will never, no matter what happens, take trans joy away. And that has to be protected more than anything, because I would not be here without trans girls.
Yes, you would. Your parents had you, girl.
Just know that pop music is thinking about you and cares about you. And I'm trying my best to like really stand up for you in every way I can.
I try so hard to be empathetic, but it's so difficult for me. Y'all know I try so hard to be nice. I do. I really do try. But it's getting so difficult. It's getting so difficult. These people are becoming more and more insufferable. And my blood pressure is too high to deal with this constant narrative of the trans people. We're thinking about you while we make our pop records of talking about doing drugs and shaking our behinds. We're thinking of you and how you want to chop off your genitals. Yeah, power. Girl, Chappell Roan, I really hope this is only 30 minutes of fame for you. And I hate to say it. I don't like to wish people negative often, but girl, you're so goofy. Unless you grow the hell up, which at your big age of 27, you might be stuck in your ways by now. It's like you are just so exhausting. And I don't know how much longer I can deal with Chappell Roan going viral. So hopefully we don't have to talk about her for a while. Moving along. Goofy. R.I.P. Young Scooter. R.I.P. to this Atlanta rapper, Young Scooter. Born in March of 1986, died on his 39th birthday. His birth name is Kenneth Edward Bailey. So I had never heard of Young Scooter, so don't think that you're just like out of touch if you haven't heard of him. He was a really regionally known artist. He was pretty big in like the Southeast, is my understanding from my research. He was signed to the to Future's label, which, no shade, I didn't know Future had a label, but he signed over there. Okay, and I really don't know a single song of him or much about him, but he recently died in a tragic situation that was very bizarre. But the reason I want to talk about it is because it just goes to show what happens more often than not when it comes to these BLM situations, because people were ready to march and protest and be up in arms about Young Scooter's death because Young Scooter died while running from the police. Now, here is this post from College Kid. If you don't know College Kid, you know I talk about the Shade Room a lot. If you ever want to tap into like pop culture, particularly urban culture, you can always check the Shade Room. But if you want to see like a step below that's more ghetto and more regional, you can go to the College Kid Instagram account. Shout out to College Kid. It's very hood over there. It's very hood. You'll get some hood news over there. Well, the hood news that they posted was that he was shot and killed by the police, which... this is a prime example in the name of Breonna Taylor of what happens when you have these blogs and these outlets going and posting misinformation, because I guarantee you there are still people who are going to try to be up in arms and go protest for Young Scooter for the basis of you think that he was shot and killed by the police. Like, that is just not the case. That is literally not the case. So what happened was the police in Southeast Atlanta responded to a 911 call reporting a dispute involving gunfire and a woman being forcibly taken back into the residence by Young Scooter. So the officers attempted to make contact with Young Scooter, and he and another man ended up running from the scene. Now, the crazy freak accident of it all is that Young Scooter apparently passed away while trying to hop over a fence, over two fences, actually. Young Scooter was trying to hop over two fences from the police, and he ended up cutting his leg and getting injured and having to go to the hospital, where he died because he bled out. So y'all were jumping to conclusions. Y'all were out here jumping to conclusions, blaming the police when really Young Scooter was out here jumping fences. How are you jumping to conclusions when Young Scooter was jumping fences and died from it? Okay, and y'all want to sit here and say that a border wall doesn't work? Well, this is proof. No shade. R.I.P. Young Scooter. All due respect to Young Scooter. But Young Scooter died trying to hop a wood fence, and you want to tell me that having a border wall to keep people from coming here through Mexico wouldn't it be helpful? I'm at the point I want to put a border wall by Canada too. No shade. Shout out the Canadians. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But what's really just perplexing to me is that people were so quick to jump up and fill the internet with this narrative that he was shot and killed by the police. And now you have all these people trying to be like, oh, they're backtracking, they're making up a lie, they're trying to cover up that they shot him. It's like, or maybe he just died from a freak accident because he was running from the police. And I'm sorry, but it's really not. It's like, I have empathy because this is a sad, tragic situation, period. But that being said, you're 39 years old. What do you mean you're running from the police? Like, grow up. Grow up. It's really not that hard to not be a hood rat. It's not. And I don't understand why it is so normalized for these people to be hood rats and to be in a situation where you have to run from the police. Why are you running from the police? At my big age of 28, I have never even been remotely close to having to run from the police. So I just do not understand why people have to do this. Why people put themselves in the situation where they are running from police. And he's a rapper, so I would assume, hopefully, he has a decent amount of money. It's like, what kind of hood rattery were you partaking in, dragging this woman back into the residence where you felt like you had to run from the police? But now people are trying to, again, say that this is police brutality. And it's like, put some respect on the Blues name. Put some respect on the name of these police officers, because these situations that people are saying Black Lives Matter and justice for these people, more often than not, it's just bad reporting. Okay, factual statistic, you are more likely as an American to be struck by lightning than a Black unarmed man is to be shot and killed by the police. Okay, learning statistics like that really make you realize how insane it is that there is still this narrative that people are trying to force that Black people are being hunted down by the police. Those police officers, as someone who is friends with a lot of police officers, these people don't want to have to deal with you. They for sure don't want to have to chase after you. So stop putting yourself in that position, because you, again, are more likely to be struck by lightning as an American, period, but especially as an unarmed black man, than to be shot and killed by the police unarmed. It is not that hard to keep yourself out of jail. Running from the police at the big age of 39 is insane. And unfortunately, in this situation, it cost young Scooter his life. So if you're watching this, don't be like young Scooter. Don't end up in a situation for you when you're running from the police, and all things will be okay. That is all for today's show, you guys. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Respectfully. Again, make sure you check out the new documentary, the mini doc. How do you say it again? It's LOL. I've been calling it LOL. Laughter on Lockdown. Make sure you watch Laughter on Lockdown on PragerU.com. It just came out today, and it is getting great reviews. And of course, make sure you rate the show, like, share, comment, subscribe, so we can keep growing. We are so close to 100,000 subscribers so quickly. It's only been like 3 months of doing the show, and we are almost at 100K. I am so grateful for you guys, and I will see you on Thursday.
Xavier, before we end, we actually did get 2 super chats, which is really cool.
Oh, nice.
So
Shout
these
out
are
to
the
the
2
super chats.
first ones that we got. So the first one reads, "You're the best news source. Come on now."
Thank you.
We got the first one coming in. The second one we have is by Jay Heavens. The first one was by X. I was trying to find a name for the person, but all I could find was X. The
Shout out
second
to
one
the
is by
X.
Jay Heavens. "I'm tuning into every video. The content here is top shelf. Keep it up."
And Will.
Yeah. So we're getting some super chats. It's pretty cool. We had a lot of responses, too, to some of the things that you spoke about earlier. Just going to briefly mention one of them.
Not me thinking I was off the clock and about to go home.
No,
Chat.
I was like, look, you encouraged the people to comment. They were commenting in. We gotta see what they were saying, because it was pretty good stuff. But the first one, it was somebody was commenting to a response to somebody else to the Luigi Mangione thing. And this one's by your boy Capone, saying, "Hillary, they don't kill anyone. They do their jobs and deny people who don't meet certain standards. And there's no excuse for killing someone because you don't get insurance. That's ghetto,
period.
low IQ logic."
Period.
And then
I
we
agree.
have another one by Hillary. This one's from YouTube. "I think Luigi knew all of this. Sorry, but I hate Luigi, but I don't condone murder. But I also know that the healthcare insurance system has unalived millions intentionally and will never be held accountable."
I agree.
We have a lot of juicy things here. And also, simping over murderers. There's a movie about it, murderers who become superstars, and it's called Natural Born Killers. And it feels so modern to watch that movie now. That one's by Cowboy. So just wanted to throw a couple comments at you and just let you know what the people are saying.
Well, shout out to the people. Thank you guys for tuning in, for all of the craziness, and for sending in those comments. Yes, keep the engagement up. We are growing, y'all. We are growing this community of cousins. Let's call it a family reunion. Okay, y'all got to start joining the family reunion of the chats, of the live chats, of the super chats. And Mr. Rodriguez is going to make sure that I see everything that you guys are saying because I love y'all. So now I really got to go. I got somewhere to be. So I'll talk to y'all soon.